through general education. But if my wife's opponents bring up the motto of Adidas and say impossible is nothing, I'm sure this debate is gonna be a real fun box. So, for the overall socio-economic development of a country, technical education is more important than general education system. But if we fail to realize it right now, generations after generations will be singing that very song, we shall overcome someday. But that day will never come. Thank you, thanks to all.
Ourselves as giants, but we are not Lilliput's wise opponents. General education is not a limited issue. It's a very vast issue. General education doesn't only mean philosophy, literature, Bangla or English. It includes all other subjects of science and arts. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, general education is a program on courses in science and arts that provides a student with broad educational experiences. Distinguished President, judicious judges, and august gathering. Today, the topic selected for Cadet College English debate competition of ICCLMM is technical education is more important than general education in Bangladesh. And for some obvious reason, my stand is against the motion. Dear friends, technical education is the invention of general education. If we consider technical education a planet, then general education is the vast universe. A wise philosopher once said, when the only tool we have is a hammer, then we must think how to get a nail. Technical education restricts our thinking within this hammer and nail. Respected first speaker of opponent, you have mentioned that if we want to be an economically developed country, then we must give more importance in technical education. Alright, but don't you think USA, UK are developed? In USA, the percentage of technical education is only 19.69%, and in UK, the percentage is only 15.28%. Source encyclopedia.org. So that implies it is not technical education, rather it is general education which has made them developed. For your kind information, our opponents, in 1971, the poverty rate of Bangladesh was almost 80%, and now it has reduced to 31%. This gradual development has only been possible due to the general educated persons, not some technical educated persons, wise opponents, as the percentage of technical education in Bangladesh is less than 1%. In the famous book Poverty and Famine, Dr. Amartya Sen has told us food sufficiency is the precondition of a sustainable development of a country. But none of you have mentioned what will be the role of technical education in our food sufficiency. Wise opponents, our country is on the way of our food sufficiency, and this has only been possible due to the general educated persons working in BRRI, BARI, and other agricultural institutions as scientists and researchers. Second speaker of our honorable opponent's side has just mentioned the importance of technical education in our agricultural sector. Well, don't you know if it is like Dr. Maksudul Alam invented genome of jute? He is a general educated person, and of course, he is not a mambo jumbo. He is a general educated person, and we must need some other Dr. Maksudul Alam who will bring revolutionary changes in our agricultural sector. And for this, we must give more importance in general education, not technical education, wise opponents. Can a technical education create Dr. Maksudul Alam? Question remains. Wise opponents, we have got victory over diarrhea. The person who invented oral saline, which is the cure of diarrhea, is a general educated person. But what will be the role of technical education in fighting against this epidemic like diarrhea? Question remains to the next speaker. Honorable first speaker of opponent, you have mentioned technical education as the ultimate solution of unemployment problem. Alright, but if we give more importance in technical education, we'll have many mechanics, technicians passing from the technical education, but they'll have to remain unemployed. So technical education cannot be the ultimate solution of unemployment problem. On the other hand, how many technical educated persons we need in our country to run an institution? Think about our cadet colleges. Here the total strength of employees is almost 186. Among those 186 employees, how many technically educated persons we need, wise opponents? According to John Milton, education is the harmonious development of body, mind, and soul. But none of you have mentioned what will be the role of technical education in fulfilling these three objectives. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, technical education only teaches a person how to operate or repair a machine. So the knowledge of operating and repairing a machine cannot be the prime subject of our overall enlightenment. Wise opponents, you have mentioned that the person who are generally educated are involved in corruption much more than the technical educated persons. Well, in that case, I agree with you there. But the prevailing education system, which is based on coaching centers, private and guidebooks, cannot be termed real general education. If we can provide real general education to the students, then our motherland will be free from the curses which have you mentioned. Wise opponents, we are not ignoring the importance of technical education, but we shouldn't give more importance in technical education than general education. Think about a pen. It is valueless without ink. Similarly, all other development will be meaningless if we are not morally high and spiritually developed. Our opponent said is just placing the cart before the horse. Now, the cart will pull the horse. What an irony, I think all of you have understood. Lastly, I think our opponent said is just placing this thing, and I want to make some questions to my wise opponents. That what our education should aim at? To make a complete human being, or to make only a worker? Our society is filled by several curses, social problems like gender discrimination, population problem, early marriage, dowry system, etc. What will be the role of technical education in saving our country from these curses? I think our next speaker for our opponent will clarify that to me. With this, I'd like to conclude here. Thank you all of yourselves.
2011, our Honorable Education Minister Nur Islam Naik said in a reception ceremony of IDB that at least 50% students of Bangladesh must be taken under technical education system, which will lead a country to national development. So, Mr. President, when the policy makers of our country are trying to convert a conventional ideology into an upgraded model, then my honorables are telling to give more importance on general education. How absurd, my dear opponents. Now, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Now, you are most of the fact about today's debate on technical education is more important than general education in Bangladesh. And my strong stand is in favor of the motion. Now, I would like to draw kind attention to a national education policy 2010. The very second sentence of its words reads, education aims at alleviating poverty. But dear opponents, can you tell why intense poverty basically resulted from unemployment still creeping the nation? Why 40% people of our country are still unemployed? You can't answer because you're not blaming, rather you're flattering that education system which is completely responsible for this pitiable condition, my dear opponents. Now, according to my first opponent has told that technical education should not be given more importance than general education. Then what education will need to give more importance, dear opponents? General education. How funny, dear opponents, have you noticed the ramshackle teaching and learning environment in our country? Our educational system has become a business where coaching centers has become a grocery shops and teachers are the shopkeepers and students are the helpless customers who are buying education just to pass in the exam. But after passing in the exam, they don't get any job and become good for nothing, my dear opponents. Oh, sorry, they're becoming the most precious assets of the country, like kidnappers, hijackers, murderers, and so on. And you're expecting some Harry Potter's magic spell is going to turn this human body into human resource. How fantastic, my dear opponents. Dear opponents, can you remember the world's most popular IT firm, Intel, was willing to set up a computer industry in a country, which was provided with two news, good news and bad news. The good news was that industry is supposed to run by native engineers and workers. And the bad news was that they left bag and baggage only because we couldn't provide them skilled workers. And how will provide, my dear opponents? But there's only one technician for every 2,000 people in a country. And if we still tell it is more than enough in this age of globalization, then I'm sorry to say, you're still living in a fool's paradise. Now, dear opponents, please take a timetable just 50 years back. Then you will find that Bangladesh, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia are the same level of world economy. But look at them now. They have reached the peak of development. And do you think they have been developed with the booster of general education? Obviously not. Dr. Atique Rahman, Governor, Bangladesh Bank now secretary of Mirzapur Cadet College, has mentioned in his famous article, Education in Bangladesh, that technical education has been very intensive to secondary education in Malaysia and Singapore. And their polytechnical students are playing the most pivotal role in their national development. So, Mr. President, when all the countries of the world are taking the advantage of technical education, then my beloved opponents are cursing technical education without any reason. How absurd, my dear opponents. Now, dear opponents, you're telling that technical education will produce second-class citizens, low-paid professionals in a country. I think you are contradictory about vocational and technical education. Well, let me clarify. So, vocational education is the part of technical education, not the whole thing. In our country, vocational technical education is imparted to students in the name of vocational education at the secondary and higher secondary levels. But tertiary level technical education includes disciplines like engineering, IT, medicine, pharmacy, hotel management, and so on. And do you think doctors, pharmacists, or engineers are low-paid professionals or second-class citizens? Question remains to my dear opponents. So, dear opponents, you are telling that technical education will not produce intellectuals, poets, philosophers, thinkers, and so on.
Well, I have a question to you. Dear opponents, are you that great teachers who have taught general education to Rabindranath Tagore and Kazi Nazrul Islam for his devoted to the two legends of Bangla literature? Obviously not, because they are self-educated. And for a kind information, Kazi Nazrul Islam didn't even appear in the secondary exam. But we still tell you have to be PhD or MP holder to be poets or philosophers, then I'm sorry to say, you are still living in a fool's paradise, dear opponents. Now let me quote the great philosopher Herbert Spencer. He said, "No nation in a precarious economic condition has a fair chance of being able to govern itself democratically, and technical education is prerequisite to its national development." So my dear opponents, the time has come to enter into a new dimension of life, to break all the conventional ideologies, and to be part of history of making a digital Bangladesh. And we the people will make it. So let's keep our hands together with the motto that technical education is more important than general education in Bangladesh. Thank you, thanks to all.
Is to create a complete citizen physically, mentally, morally, and enable him for a profession whereby he could earn his own livelihood and contribute to the society. Said by great scholar and philosopher Ibn Sina. So, wise opponent, here Ibn Sina has strongly emphasized on the importance of general education, not your technical education. Respected judges and August House, in today's debate, the topic is technical education is more important than general education in Bangladesh, and my stance is against the motion. Our second opponent told that how would morality, integrity, or better say, general education would develop our country. Wise opponent, just tell me, what plays the most important role in developing a country? It is nothing but a more eligible, dynamic, and educated leadership. Both industrial and developing countries need efficient leader. Now, according to Howard Bowen, it is simply general education to turn out well-rounded men and women for leadership. Look at Malaysia. Few years back, it was an underdeveloped country, but now, under the dynamic leadership of Mahathir Mohamad, it has reached the zenith of success. But what's happening in our country? Incompetent people are coming to the power and pouring everything inside their pocket. Wow. So, don't you feel that general education should be invited so that these people can be aware of morality, integrity, and sacrifice so that they can contribute as a successful leader? Our third and fourth opponent told that people of our country getting technical education would get job home and abroad. Wow, what a nice dialogue. But you know, it will be completely impertinent to think even, because nowadays employers no longer want any narrowly trained workers who even doesn't know how to adapt to this changing globalized economy. Today, employers are seeking those persons who have sophisticated analytical communication, teamwork skill, as well as creativity. In a survey of AT&T, employers are screaming that they want liberally educated students. Nevertheless, even sometimes you see that the person merely taking technical education and not getting up at all. Please, don't be astonished, because this is the reality. For example, if computer programming is a booming market, it would only make sense of the people to be technically educated. But when this market dries up, or flooded with qualified workers, ultimately what happens? These persons cannot do anything, just nothing. On the other hand, general education is much more relevant because it doesn't travel within a certain field. Our fifth opponent talked about remittance. Wow! I should say we have been getting remittance for years after years. But where is the progress? So, only remittance cannot cause a rapid advance. What we need is a liberally educated, conscious citizen, which is completely impossible without general education. Dear opponent, invention of different equipments and methods are very essential to develop a country. I've already told that technical education provides skill, but on the other hand, general education provides us innovative power. It can be a carpenter, a welder, or mechanic, getting technical or vocational education. But the person who had invented computer took general education at first. I can't understand how you're telling that technical education is more important than general education. Can you show me a single example that this nation has been successful in developing themselves only through technical education? If you talk about civilization, it started with general education. All the great scholars, philosophers who had received name and fame so far, all of them had at least a minimum standard of general education. Stephen Hawking, Einstein, Aristotle, Plato, were they technical educated? Come on, come to the reality. Their base was general education. Our sixth opponent wondered that is it ever possible to develop a country through general education? Wise opponent, if we consider the history of Europe, we see that general education has changed everything, just the total scenario of Europe. And after Renaissance, Europe started to develop day by day. Now let me tell you what are the elements of this Renaissance. They were art, culture, literature, etc. So one can easily understand all these are the resultant of general education, not your technical education. At last, I'd like to add that from your first speaker up to the last speaker, all of you had only highlighted the importance of technical education in economic sector only. But none of you could show even a single effect of technical education in other sectors. In our country, we have got a number of problems. Poverty, social and political unrest, corruption have spread their gruesome effect throughout the country. And it is completely impossible to solve all these problems without general education. So you see that general education is the soul of your body. If you deny the importance of your soul, ultimately you will deny your own existence. With this, I'd like to conclude here. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just a few minutes back, my learned opponent's second speaker has shouted at the top of his voice about corruption. Dear opponent, don't forget that this very corruption is a gift of your so-called general education, which has been continued from the last 40 years. Mr. President, my opponents have been daydreaming of thousands of executives without offices, but they have forgotten about our biggest earning source of remittance, expatriates. We are earning a lot from here, and at the same time missing a lot more because our people go to Middle East with little or no skill at all. We could earn triple of what we are getting only if we could send our people with basic technical skill, not JSC certificate. Mr. President, my learned opponent, third speaker, has so vigorously talked about the outcome of general education. Dear opponent, don't forget that the ultimate destination of your general education process is universities. In our poverty, the whole nation can grant only 1% of the national budget to the universities, which is not at all sufficient to maintain those, but can easily run almost triple number of technical institutes. And we all know that a technically skilled populace is the ultimate invitation to the foreign investors. So now you decide, you want thousands of masters holding unemployed or technically skilled active youth. So dear opponents, please don't fast only for debate's sake and say with us that technical education is obviously more important than general education in Bangladesh. Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks to all. Have a nice day. Faujdarhat Cadet College.
আমার Dear viewers, our next competitor is character number 177, character Nadia from Feni Girls Cadet College.